Hello everyone and welcome to this Advanced Commerce 365 webinar. My name is Thijs and I'm the program manager for this product, and today I have the honor to discuss some of the more advanced use cases and features with you. Just a bit of background information. We're Ryden, most of you know us already, but we're an ISV who develops add-ons and extensions for Microsoft Dynamics, Business Central and of course for NAV. We've been doing this for over 10 years now, and we're mainly focusing on integrating Dynamics with other systems. Besides the Magento extensions, which we will be looking at today, we also have two products which might be of interest to you. These can integrate and optimize your logistics. These applications are often used in combination with our Magento add-ons. That's why I thought it's worth mentioning them here on this session as well. The one here, Shipit, that one makes use of the Transmart platform, and then there's SendCloud, which does kind of the same but then built on top of the SendCloud platform. Together, these are the two major multi-carrier platforms we have here in Europe, and together they can enable you to integrate with over 400 carriers. For a more complete overview, just go on our website and browse through the product yourself. So this is our second webinar on Commerce 365 for this year. And as this is the more advanced session, we are not going to cover any of the basics like installing and configuring the extension. For that, I'd like to point at YouTube, where you can find a recording of that previous session. So just find the Ryden channel here on YouTube, and here they are. Here's some of the other products as well, but here's Commerce 365 in English and in Dutch. And yeah, just click on any of these. It's a 1-hour session which will show you how to install, how to get started, how to get your first products and customers online, until the point of getting your first sales orders back into Business Central as well. Very useful for most of you, I guess, as well. If you haven't seen it, just press play somewhere after this session, because now we're going to look at some other things first. So on with today, the more advanced topics. And when I was preparing for this session, I did find that I used the word attributes like 100 times more than any other. So yes, a little warning up front, we are going to talk about attributes, and attributes a lot. Item attributes, customer attributes, order attributes, simply because that's how Magento works. All entities are extendable by using the attribute mechanisms, and that's what makes it so great. That's what makes it highly flexible and highly versatile, and that is what makes it the #1 e-commerce platform in the world, I guess. Sure, there's others popping up here and there, and they look promising, some of them at least, but if you want to be able to customize your designs, customize your data objects, your processes, you still need Magento. And as we all know, if you want that kind of flexibility on the ERP side, you need Business Central or NAV. But in the end, these two go really well together. It's superpower and endless flexibility on both sides. So let's get started with item attributes. And to get started with that, let's go to my Magento demo store here. I'm selling car tires today. We'll also have a pair of jeans for you, and if you need a chair, come to my store as well. No, but this is what we're going to use as our example products for today. Everywhere where you look around here, it's attributes. It's like the name of the category here, the name of the product. Of course, if we look at this in a minute in Business Central, you'll get a bit of a different feel, because product name, of course, is a field next to the description, which is a field as well, and then comes the additional set of attributes. But technically, within Magento, they're all attributes. Here's some additional attributes like the color, the manufacturer, and of course, with just one product in store, we still can go without filters. But everyone knows if you're buying products like this, you'll end up in a store. Store has hundreds or even thousands of these chairs. You're specifically looking for a white one or a green one with a certain height and with arms or without. and you have to be able to set your filters and just to quickly find the product you're looking for. And now this is quite a basic product, but if we go on to my car tires again, this is a technical product, right? So you have a car, you have the rims on which these tires should go, and you need a very specific size, and you need them probably for a specific purpose as well. You're just a day-to-day or a driver, or you have some kind of a fancy race car, you'd need different tires for that as well. So if we look at the product here, comes in different sizes, and yes, it has some more additional attributes which are really needed to sell me the right product, because if they're too wide or the height is incorrect, they simply won't fit, let alone the diameter. Everything has to match my specifications, otherwise the product is simply useless. So this is a better example. The chair, there is a bit more margin around its parameters, but this has to be exactly that product, otherwise I simply can't use it. Now let's go to Business Central and see how we manage all this from within BC. Going to items. Here's my web items, and let's find that one product. It's this one. Well, actually, let's start with the simple product here, the chair. So here it is. We've told the system that this is a chair by using the attribute set code. There we go again. Everything built up around attributes. So Magento starts but with the question, which attribute set should we apply to this product? And the attribute set then says, okay, that makes that it's going to have these attributes. We'll look at the set definition a little later, but this is what you get once you say, okay, attribute set is chair. And why I chose to look at this one first, because this is a really simple product. It's technically a simple product as well. We'll get to that later as well. But simple in terms of this is just a manual thing. I can just go in here and okay, set oak as its color it is right now. There's a drop down which I can use to select a manufacturer. I have to do it all manually. I can type in the designer, and I can just type in 46 and 66 for seat height and arm height. Now this is fine for just a product like this, and if you don't have too many of these, then you're probably okay by just doing this all manually. But if we go to that other category, the tires, and of course in my demo system I just have a few, but you can imagine if you're a tire company, the list is endless, because these things come in many different widths, many different heights, many different diameters. If you go on to a proper tire shop, you'll probably find that for each brand and model, like this Pirelli P0 here, you have like 100 different variants or variations onto that same product. So here we just have 3, but for the demonstration that's perfectly fine. Let's open our Pirelli P0 and let's see how things work for this product. You see here, car tire is the attribute set code. So scrolling down, this is my list of attributes. Completely different than the chair we looked at. This is everything you need to properly sell a car tire. Different attribute set code, different attributes, but even more different is this column here, mapped. And you see almost all of them marked as a mapped attribute, meaning that you can't set the value here on this page. The value is coming from some other source, some other table somewhere in the system, and it's just reused over here. And that's one of those more interesting and more advanced features which I wanted to take a look at. And as you can imagine, as mentioned earlier, if you sell such products, you probably have like 100,000 of these black things in your system. They all look the same. They of course they're different, but the differences are not too big, but they're super important. All different heights, widths, diameters, different grip, different speed indexes. In the past, I looked into a certain in a system from a company like this, and yeah, turned out that they had a couple of hundred different products times 100 different versions or variants per product. So yeah, you need something else than just typing in the values, because that simply won't work for that many products. So let's look at how this is organized data-wise. Let's close this one and let's go to attributes. Here's my list of attributes. This is the lowest level of attribute definitions. If we go to attribute sets, let's quickly open car tire. Car tire is made up out of 3 groups: size, branding, and additional, being width, height, diameter. And the branding is brand and model. And additionally, we have an EEN code, energy label, a season indicator, and a type attribute. All right, let's close this and go to attributes. So to get started, well, actually, we have to quickly look at what I've done here on the standard item page. I've created a little demonstration extension. Here it is, Tire Turbo Plus, just to show a bit of the concept we have here. It is an extension for tire companies, of course, which enables them to more properly manage their tire data in their Business Central system. For now, this is nothing spectacular, just 3 fields where you can set the brand, the model, and the season, where you can say summer, winter, or all season. But you can imagine that whether you're selling car tires or if you have one of those fashion add-ons in your system, usually these things work the same. They just extend your standard Business Central with additional fields and perhaps some additional tables next to the item table we're looking at here. But yeah, what we're going to look at is how to reuse all that data in your Magento store. So here we go, this tire, and let's look at this one. That's even a better example. So here's our Pirelli P0 235. That's the width. It has the brand field here. It has a model. It has the season. And then we, for some reason, started to maintain these values, the width, height, and diameter, here in the standard Business Central attributes. So I don't know why Tire Turbo Plus didn't bring us the fields to manage these values as well. But for our demonstration here, it's a perfect combination of areas in which data resides. So let's close this one. Let's go to attributes. And let's start with that brand field. Here we go. So you see, we have an attribute, which is like a Magento attribute. It has all the settings you normally have in Magento. So we gave it a code, we gave it a label. It's a drop-down type, meaning you can select one value from a predefined list. Actually, here is our list. And down here, more important for now, is how it's mapped. What we did, we told this attribute it's a mapped attribute, and we make it point to table 27, which of course everyone knows that's the item table. There we go, table 27. And then what you do with these mappings, I have to do it again, because I reselected a table number. Well, good for the example. We're mapping with field number 1, because that's the field which contains our item number. And then we're looking for a field down here, the brand field. And that's how we define that mapping. So there we go again. Mapped with that example brand field. And that's all we have to do. We don't have to type in any of these values. That will be maintained automatically by the system. So any brand that gets filled in on that standard item card within our tire plus extension, these values will automatically be added to the list of drop-down options, just as we would do ourselves if we would create a drop-down attribute which has to be maintained manually. But in this case, we can forget about those values, will be automatically maintained by the mapping we have in place down here. So that's what we did. We defined a mapped attribute called brand. There's another one, is the model. Same thing, but this is a text attribute. And the difference is that you cannot create filters on the Magento side out of text attributes. So that's what you have to be aware of. If this value has to become a filter, then you'd better create a drop-down. But in this case, it's just a plain text field we're after, which is possible with mapping as well. So again, table 27 mapped on field number 1. And then we selected that custom model field as our the source for our mapping here. And that's it. That's it. That's how we created brand and model. And then season, again, interesting. This is a drop-down attribute. Again, some values are being shown here, but you don't have to work on that because it's a mapped attribute. But we've seen that it was an option field. And again, not a problem here, just selected season as the source for this mapping. Whether it's text fields which have to be translated into drop-down attribute or the other way around, option fields which have to be translated into either drop-down or just plain text attributes, all is possible. Where we were talking about potentially hundreds of thousands of products for which we have to get all the data to the Magento side. And with this, just defining the mapping for the brand, model, and season fields, just appointing the right fields, we're already releasing a lot of existing data without having to do much more than what we just looked at. So, but then next to brand, model, and season, we also had height, width, and diameter. So, and those were standard Business Central attributes. Let's open the attribute we created here. You see again, this is a normal Magento attribute. Diameter, this is a drop down again. Again, it has some options, but we don't have to work on that over here because again, mapped. But in this case, you see we're mapping a specific table 7500, which is the item attribute table. And that's the only table which flicks the ability to edit these three fields here. So if you select item attribute table, you don't have to say we're looking for that field as the item field, we're looking for that specific value field. No, all you do is just select the attribute we're mapping and that's it. So besides pointing at some fields in our tiny ISV solution there, we're now pointing for the diameter, we're pointing at the diameter attribute, and the same is here for our width and height. Again, you see that an interesting list of values, and it would be quite a tough job to maintain all these crazy numbers manually, but you don't have to. They're put there automatically through the mapping here, and this, in this case, it points at the width field. And in the end, what that does is, if we go back to our products, whether it's our Pirelli P0, whatever size, here we go. Yeah, just based on these configurations in that mapping area, they always have the right size, the right height, the right diameter, the brand, the model, everything you pointed at with your mappings. So without having to rekey any data, this is what you'll get. Your product here with all the information, and in this case this is a group product. In a minute we'll look at some more of these possibilities, but here's the actual product. But these are complete products with their own attributes. In this case, they're just shown as in a little list where the title does well, for this site, someone decided that this is enough information to show. Of course, you can make more of these attributes visible as well. And they're being used here in these filters also, because if we go down here and go into these widths, we can say, okay, I need a 325 millimeter width tire. The system will still know, okay, within this group of products is the product you're looking for. So that's how you can get to that product. So to wrap up here, if you have products like these, but if you think about it, there's a lot of product categories that have the same kind of data challenges. You have thousands and thousands of these products in your system, and you probably have all that data which is required to do what we're looking at now as well, just by then creating the right attribute mappings, whether it's mapping fields, other attributes, or even fields from your ISV solutions. Just within an hour of work or something like that, you can unleash a lot of interesting data, and with that develop a much better e-commerce environment, which is actually able to sell products like this one over here. Now the last thing I wanted to add in this area is just to show you a bit of code. Well, this is actually my little ISV solution here, my Tire Turbo Plus, but this is what I wanted to show you. We'll get to this internal API chapter later on as well, but as you can see here, I have a small code unit with one example function here, update additional attributes. Really just an example. This you have to of course put some more effort into creating something that makes sense, but if you have an item, or a web item in this case, just create a reference to that attribute API which comes with our software, and all you have to do is to just call that really plain and simple function here, set attribute value. So there's 2 lines of code here, just first to just verify that the web item is there, but really just with 1 line of code you can say, for this item, set the energy label to a value E. And you don't have to study our data models, you don't have to know how attribute and attribute value and attribute drop down options, and then selected drop down options per attribute value record, how that's all organized. No, just call set attribute value, and that function will find out by itself whether this is a drop-down attribute and whether this value existed or not, and it will add the value to the list if needed, and then in the end it will set that value for that specific item, for that specific attribute code, and you're done. So if it can be done through mapping, it can definitely always still be done by just writing a couple of lines of code and just process whatever data you want to process, and just set the right attribute values wherever you require them. So now from attributes, let's go and take a look at the more complex types of products where attributes are evolved again as well. So going back here, throughout the demo so far, we've looked at these tires. These were grouped products, so that means you have like one parent product which is used for all the content, the image, the descriptions. You only have to do that once. Certain attributes can be done on parent level as well, and then there's the actual sellable products that go under that parent product, and that's how you can, in this case, present a grouped product. And the other way of handling multiple products being displayed as one is this one, and this is called a configurable product. So the difference between group products is what you see here, usually, or at least by default, being displayed as a list of products where you can fill in the quantities at once, or all at a time, I must say, and then add to your cart at once. So this is more being used in a B2B scenario. If you're a garage, if you operate a garage and you've been installing a lot of these tires, at the end of the day you just want to do this. You want to go 10 and give me 20, and we still need 8 of these. Add to cart, and there you go. But in a B2C environment, or with products like these, you have, well, at least I guess the preferred way is to do it like this. Say, okay, which color and which is the sizes are available for that color, and allow people to pick a product like this. But of course, these could also be displayed in a B2B scenario as a long list where you can quickly fill in and order a ton of these products at a time. Specifically this one here, the configurable product, that's where attributes are highly involved as well. Because actually what we're looking at here, the options we're being served, those are the so-called configurable attributes. And that's what Magento requires to render these 2, or you can also have 3 or just 1 drop down, in order for us to select the right product. So let's take a look at what these look like in Business Central. So going here, and as you can see before, I pointed out a couple of times already, our group product, our Pirelli, and here's the actual so-called simple products. That's the term we got from Magento. Magento calls this lowest level products, calls it simple products. But in a group product like this, or in a configurable as well, you have 2 ways to do it. You can either just pick existing products. So if we go onto this one, which on the standard configuration doesn't have any item variants, so it knows that it doesn't have to offer you item variants to work with. It only gives you a list where you can pick the next so-called grouped item, or simple item that goes within this group. And in terms of attributes, you can use as many attributes as you want. So all these different Pirellis, they have at least that very specific width attribute, which is being set on all these. If we open up this card here, you can see here down at attributes 3 or 235. It's a mapped attribute, as we've seen before. So of course, on each different variation, we need the correct width and height. But that's it. You don't have to fill them in. Of course, you're going to miss out on some sales if you don't. But the group product in that way is less strict than the configurable product. So let's now open the jeans here, the configurable product. And this one actually is made up out of item variants. So if we go to the original item card and then say actions, items, variants, you can see this is where all these colors and sizes come from. And actually, if you look at what some of the ISV solutions like Trimit or Pebblestone Fashion, what these do is also, they give you a bit of additional management where you can configure colors and sizes, but in the end the output will be this item variants, and this is just a short list for my demo, just a couple of colors with a couple of sizes. Usually you get a much longer list with much more colors and much more sizes. So again, definitely something where automation has to do its work in order to maintain all this, if this has to become item attributes as well. So standard item with item variants, closing that again. Here's the web item that we created out of that. Again, the parent item has all the text. We don't need this on the simples that go under this parent, because the description will be the same. But here's what is being held within this configurable is item variants in this case, but that will also just translate to simple items on the Magento side. And if we open up this card here, you see it looks very much like our web item card, but then carefully pay attention here on the top left corner, you will see this is the item variant card. You cannot give it a different attribute set because, of course, if your parent is a jeans, it's going to be very weird if the item underneath is a laptop or whatever else. So no need to fill in additional descriptions. At least in this case, you could provide additional descriptions, no problem. More important is what you get down here: jeans color, jeans size. These two have to be set on the item variant level in order to render these two drop downs, which allow you to select the right simple product. So this one's blue and the size is set to 2630. And in this case, that has been done manually just to prepare this little demo here. But you can imagine, as mentioned, in a real world scenario, you have much more colors, much more sizes. And in order to come up with these lists, and maybe even more, and more values in there, you do need to have all these attributes. So doing it manually, you'll go crazy. Just after the first two products, you've had it already, I guess. And there's quite some room for error because you really have to set them on each product. There's no much room for mistakes because then Magento will say, well, I can't display this product because you're missing the color and I need the color. So again, just as we looked at earlier with the mapping and programmatically setting these attribute values, again here, that's what you need. So whether you're doing this through mapping or whether you're, as mentioned, working with one of these ISV solutions which generate all these variants. What we've done at some other customer who also works with one of these solutions is that we added the create web item step programmatically directly after the create normal item step. So they're defining this master item, I believe it's trim it. There they say, well, we have these sizes and these colors and some more configuration, and now generate my product or generate my items. And just by subscribing to that event and using those APIs we've seen before within our solution, it becomes quite easy to just on the fly set all these color and size attributes. So what looked as an impossible task to do all this attribute work for a super long list of items, after like an hour of programming or something, it all becomes much easier. It will just be done for you in the background. So to wrap this up, configurable products, configurable items, grouped items, in combination with as much attributes and attribute values, possibly maintained programmatically where possible. Altogether, these are super powerful features in order to produce a decent catalog like this, where you can work with a ton of items and item variants all being grouped or displayed the proper way, so to say. These things can all have their own prices, can have their own or have their own inventory number, of course. So the two complex product types, so to say, definitely you can't do without if you're selling products like this or these guys over here. Yeah, just imagine if you would just throw them all on a page, all these different sizes, but all having the same image. Everyone would go crazy trying to buy something from that from a shop like that. So yeah, that was grouped items and configurable items in combination with attributes. And for now, I think we should move on and look at some other attributes, but not around the catalog, but around customers. So just as with items, if you want to add additional parameters or attributes, information, whatever you want to call it, to a customer record in Magento, attributes again is the way to go. you only have one customer group which you can use, where in Business Central, of course, we have several groups we can use. We can use dimensions and other types of segmentation, but Magento just one group and the rest is attributes. But that's fine because that works really well. And let's start by taking a look at the Magento backend in this case. Yep. Because we already bring quite a few attributes from Business Central into Magento just by default, or at least if you install our software in Business Central, you also get a component which you can install on the Magento side. Here in this environment, that component is activated, of course, and what it does, it enhances the customer or account table and the pages that come with that. So if you look at the first thing you see here is the customer number. That's what we use in Business Central. We don't know about customer ID 123. We know customer 10,000, 20,000, or whatever number series you're using. So just for your convenience, we've added that column in here, and you can search and filter on it as well. If we dive in, we click on Edit. We also see that we add a tab down here, Customer or Commerce 365, I have to say. And here you see a list of custom attributes which are already added by us. So just after installing that module, Magento is capable of receiving this data from Business Central, and we automatically, when you sync a customer, we take this data along. It's standard Business Central data anyway, and there's good use in having these values in Magento for a lot of customers, because these questions we get quite often. It's like, okay, well, my customer in Business Central already has DHL set as a shipping agent code, or a certain service is set, or their payment terms is this or that. Can you then do something on the Magento side? Well, of course, we don't know, or we can't supply you something which fully automatically does this, whatever has to be done on the Magento side. But what we can do is at least bring all the data into Magento. So if it's one of these values you want to work with, you don't have to ask us. You can just discuss it with your web developer. Say, hey, if they have these payment method code card or maybe bank or something else, then please show them our iGen checkout module, or only show the pay by invoice payment method. Just, do your logic depending on these values. This is an interesting one as well. In Business Central and NAV, we have the ability to block a customer. And then the question we get from time to time is, hey, my customer is blocked, or I blocked it for shipping or invoicing. Now Magento has to behave like this, but this is always different for every customer. So what we do is, well, we supply the value, and just work with your developer to either show a black page blinking, you're blocked, or maybe just let them use the shop anyway, but only offer those pay in advance methods. That's different for everyone. So we just bring in the values and you add the logic. Now, as mentioned, this is what everyone gets out of the box. But if you have other criteria, if you need other attributes here on a customer record, just go in here and under attributes find customer attributes. Hey, and in this case my list is completely empty, but we can do this really quickly. Say I need the credit limits on the other side. Credit limit, and it's going to be a decimal value. And here's mapping as well. So let's pick table 18, mapping again on field number 1, and then search for credit limit in local currency. There we go. And that's it. That's how we created our first customer attribute. So release that one. And remember, it's a mapped attribute, so we're not setting any values manually. And one other good example, which at some point might even become a standard custom attribute, is drop shipment allowed. More and more customers or clients of ours are offering their end users drop shipment capabilities. Well, but they don't want everyone to use that. So there you go. Just create an attribute, a Boolean type. We don't need a mapping in this case. We just release the attribute, and now we have two customer attributes which we can use on our customer accounts. So let's open this guy again, scroll down, and now you can see we have some attributes which we can add. Here's our credit limit. We don't have to fill in anything because this value comes from the mapping we have configured. And the other one, drop shipment allowed. This is what we can use to inform Magento about whether we want to show this customer that drop shipment module, which in this case we haven't installed. But just as an example, you see what this can do. Just add as many attributes as you want, either mapped or values set manually. And by doing so, just feed your Magento with additional parameters, additional information which your developer can use to act upon in any area of the site. So some good examples are these, of course. You could combine the current balance together with the credit limit to do some calculation and then say, okay, you're still allowed to pay by invoice or not. We have customers who have their clients to take certain training sessions where they then earn a certificate. They add these certificates as attributes here to these customer records, and based upon customer has a certain certificate, they are entitled to shop in a certain category of products. But you can also use these things for additional segmentation kind of features, just adding additional parameters to your customer, do they more prefer this, or is it more that type of customer? Do they buy a lot from this category, or just additional statistics you want to use to further personalize the store, to push people into certain areas where you think that you can make more revenue out of the combination customer and catalog you have to offer. It's up to you. Be creative, and you have like unlimited possibilities in terms of combining data and enhancing your site according to that. So enough about customers and their attributes. Let's move on to the sales processes. Because around sales orders, shipments, and invoices, again, you can add attributes wherever you can think of. So first, let me show you an additional module which I think everyone should consider using, because if you look at the price for this thing, and if you look at what it can do, that's simply your developer probably can't beat that. It's made by a company called Amnesty. There is many companies out there who develop some components, but we're moving more and more towards working with just one or two. And this is definitely one of them. These guys develop great components. They have good support. It's all in all reliable stuff, and that's what you need if you want to build a proper e-commerce environment. Order attributes, as its name tells you already, it's adding additional fields or parameters everywhere where you can think of throughout the checkout process. So whether you want to ask some questions like what you see here, ask for a delivery date, we have that example in a minute as well. Just adding extra fields, every data type you can think of, wherever it makes sense for you and your business, just do so. And the values will come back into Business Central automatically. So there's this one, there's order attributes, there's also custom checkout fields. Check out that one as well. Works equally in terms of integration with our software. Feel free to enhance the whole checkout with whatever field that you might be interested in. So practically what this does, if we go back here onto our store, and let's for now sign in as our demo customer, this guy, there we go, makes it as easy as possible for us to take some products through the checkout. We're not really interested in anything else right now. Here we go. Because this is a customer that was originally created from within Business Central, just to add that little detail here, if you have shipping addresses, of course, they will be synchronized with Magento as well. But here we go. We're going to ship these things here. And here's one of those additional fields we added. So we say, here we go, that is next Monday. That's when I want these to be delivered. Nothing spectacular, although the costs are quite spectacular. But in terms of shipping methods, capabilities or options, there's just one flat rate. You can, well, not even choose, you just have to work with that. But this is of course the area where you could have installed your Royal Mail or DPD or whatever kind of plugins, your Transmart and your SendCloud plugins as well. So, but we're here for these fields. We've added this one, a project code. So let's just add something. There we go. And this field as well, all coming from that same module. Again, you can add it programmatically as well if your developer is capable of that, and I'm sure most of them are, but still the module can do it for you as well. This is a demo order for today's webinar. There we go. And this one's actually extra interesting. Some companies have good use for these things. You could think of allowing your user to upload a packing slip or some additional document, because to complete a proper drop shipment order here, or to upload a certain design if you're buying like a product where something has to be printed on, or maybe you have to upload a certain certificate to prove that you're entitled to buy or use these products. For now, let's just select some fancy Magento ebook here. There we go, added a file, and for now, billing and shipping, yes, that's the same. Let's place an order. So here's our number. In a typical standalone environment, of course, you would now go into the Magento backend to further process your order, but we're not interested in that. We work in our integrated way. So what we do, and I just clicked a button to speed up the process, but of course you can run the job queue in the background to automatically pull in new and updated orders. In this case, there was 2 new or updated, and I see 1 new one here, so another one must have been updated. And here we go. This is what we just produced, so to say, and this is a staging order. So this is the Magento web order in Business Central, but we've not yet created a real sales order out of this. Good to know that we're really bringing everything there is on the Magento side. Every field, we're bringing that here into Business Central with all the numbers, and that's really a lot of numbers, but that's just what Magento offers us. So we thought, let's just bring it all into Business Central. But here, order attributes, that's what we were after. See, here's our project code, here's our requested delivery date, here's those comments we put in, and here's the actual link to the file upload, or at least we get half a path. This is how Magento stores its files, but nothing to worry about. We'll just convert that into something readable in a minute, because what we do, of course, at this point, this is like, just some piece of data. There's no we don't know where to take this. This could have been created 2 minutes ago. The attribute code could have been anything. It just did what we saw on the Magento side. It created fields which our user was able to fill in. And now it's up to us to further process these. And for that, let's dive into my little BC project here, or AL project, and let's look at sales order, staging order events. Here we go. So on after create sales document, because that's what we are about to do. We're going to process this staging order and we're going to create a sales document. Depending on the settings we have in our store configuration, where we can say this has to become a quote or this has to become an order. But after that, the standard process which we have in place for that is executed, and it is going to create a sales header and sales lines. And we can then subscribe to the event that gets fired right after creating that document. And that's what we're doing here. And just to show you how easy it is to work with those additional values, again, because we're offering an API, again, it's an internal API for your AL code. So just reference this code unit here, the sales order API. The event is being triggered with the staging order header as an incoming parameter. And from there, we can move on. So we're going to work with the actual sales header that's being created by this process. So at first we're going to, of course, check, has that been done? Did we get a proper sales header? Fine. The staging order header is what's coming in. So there's no, we don't have to do anything for that. We can just use our sales order API, get staging order value to, or staging order attribute value. That's what I should say. Pick up project code, comments, file, upload. And for now, we'll just add the full path to that file link. You'll see in a minute what this does for you. We're going to extract the requested delivery date, because I learned that this thing is giving us a date time value. And as we all know, that's something that does not directly fit into a AL date variable. So yeah, just splitting and fetching. Yes, it is the first element in the collection. You wouldn't think that, but it starts at 1 in AL. Evaluate to a real date. If not, then we just take 5 days from today. Do some work on our with our blob helper to get that comments field actually stored in our work description blob field, setting the delivery date, putting the project code in the your reference field, update our sales header, and add a link to that web order file upload. Well, and just by clicking this thing, that's being done, and it asks us, do you want to see that sales order? And here we go. If we click on the show more button, you'll see here's our requested delivery date, here's our work description, the comments we got from the user. And if we scroll down, no, we have to click this one. You see here under links, here's our web order file upload, and not allowed, yes, allow. Here's that file we just uploaded during the checkout. If you're interested in these ebooks, just go on magento.com. It's quite interesting, if you ask me. Just download a couple of these. You'll learn a lot. So yes, everything that came in, or what every information that was gathered throughout the checkout process, when it or came in on onto our staging orders, and then we processed it. And this now ended up here in our BC sales order. So that was attributes in the sales order process. And to wrap up the whole thing here, as you've seen, by default, out of the box, the software, both on the Magento side and the Business Central side, is already capable of doing quite a lot. You can definitely just define a proper catalog by doing everything manually, or maybe by running some imports and things. You can create customers, no problem, no direct need for any additional attributes, and just process orders as is being offered by default by Magento. But then if you add all the things we looked at, properly managing your attributes either through mapping or programmatically, and with that, and greatly enhancing your catalog with these complex product types, the group products and the configurable products, then adding additional attributes to your customer records in order for the site to be shown more personalized depending on all these values, offering payment methods and shipment methods which are required by the one customer or have to be used by the other. Whatever logic you can come up with, just use your attributes and make the site behave like that. And then last but not least, all these order attribute capabilities. Just any field you can think of, any value you either require or optionally can be supplied by your end users. Just define the fields, pull back the information into the system. Should not forget to mention that we've now done things on sales order header level, but you can do the exact same thing on a line level. So like one customer which sells paint and they require a certain color code per line, per item that's being purchased, can be perfectly handled as well. So yeah, altogether, using attributes wherever possible, using automation where possible as well, simply enables you to create a much more professional and personalized experience for your end users, for your buyers. And for sure that will convert to simply more revenue coming forward out of your stores. There's one more topic which I wanted to briefly take a look at today, and that is the development capabilities we try to offer you. If you go to our online manual, just type in help.iden/commerce365, help.iden.nl, that is, commerce365, there we go. And if you scroll down here, there's commerce365 for developers. What we offer, or what we try to offer you, and if something's missing, that's what we've written all over the place. If something's missing, just ask and we'll see what we can add for you. But we try to add as much events as possible, which allow you to either act before and after our code is doing something, but we also, where possible, implement the so-called handled pattern, which enables you to say, and that goes for the on befores, of course, but there you can say on before you're doing something and say handled is true, meaning you don't have to do anything else. I've completely handled it. I'm fully taking over. Of course, you have to know what you're doing, but yeah, it's your system, it's your processes, so we want to offer you that kind of freedom to develop whatever you're after. And then we believe that this is already quite an extensive list which you can use to enhance your system. Like this one's interesting here. We have some master data events where we say on after create web item. That's exactly the place where what I've told you about earlier, when you run like this Trimit or Pebblestone fashion add-on, at some point the software is going to say let's create items out of a master item, and maybe in the same call create web items out of the standard Business Central items. And then in such events, you can say, okay, web item created, and I do need to pull some values from that master data item which got everything started here. Well, just subscribe to that event, find your way through the fields that you want to implement, and use those APIs as we showed you earlier, like the attribute API. Here it is already. Just use that thing to say set this attribute value, set that one as a configurable attribute. Maybe you have you've defined a certain template product. We've actually seen a couple of customers doing that, and then say copy all the attribute values. It's up to you. We think we're supplying you with quite an extensive list here, which enables you to do quite some things with our data. Of course, there is no API method for everything, because things which are just plain simple, like updating an item name field or something on your customer record, that doesn't really require an API. That's just referencing the record, updating the value, and modifying it as you always do. But for the more complex tasks, we definitely don't want you to spend a lot of time and still think that there's a lot of risk involved in studying our data models. Just use the APIs and rest assured that the data will be set correctly. So with that, I think we've come to the end of this webinar. Please all see how you can use this. Just start a little project, just like I've done in here. So just put in a dependency to our solution, and just start playing around with your events. Start to use those APIs. But if you don't succeed in that for whatever reason, know where to find us. Just find me on the chat on our website, or send me an email, and we're more than happy to hear about your project and about what you're trying to accomplish, and see how we can help. That was it for today. The session will be recorded, will be put on YouTube after today, probably somewhere tomorrow. You'll get an email with a link to that anyway, so if you want to go over the information again or send it to someone else, feel free to do so, and hope to see you all soon in some other session.